Anyway, what I was saying is that one of the big parts of this podcast is simply to learn what the hell all this is about.
Right.
All facets of it. The podcast, the sitting with somebody, the bullshitting, the picking a subject, a script, not a script, see how things flow, and then adding it to YouTube and learning all of that.
Yeah.
Because I've been very interested in the
mechanics behind
of YouTube for years and years and years.
Right.
And
well, you're missing out the most fun part, the part of actually putting it up there.
And I've done that before. Like that actual part I've done before.
Right.
Like I've got some shitty videos up. Like that song, I wrote a song for the guild that I played video games with. I wrote a song and I made a video for my friend for his birthday. And I put those up. So I've got that. It's more the maintaining of a channel. Like what the hell does that all look like? Because there's a shitload of stuff to it that you can do. Yeah, I was interested to see how do we monetize it? When can we monetize it? Not with any expectations that we could.
Oh, yeah. I have no expectations.
No.
None.
And the amount, what we need to even get to the point to flick on the switch is a lot.
Yeah.
We need 1,000 subscribers. And the first 1,000's the hardest of any subscriber amount, right? Like
tell me about it.
Right, it'll be very hard.
I've been blogging since I think 2003, and I've got 13 followers.
Right, exactly.
And I've got over 100,000 posts.
Right.
Talkbots.
Talkbot.
Episode 3. You never did tell me what you thought of my
title. You're right, I did. It's good. I read it and I wasn't in love.
The theme, yeah, I just couldn't come up with anything better.
I tried, but
considering what we're going to be talking about. But yeah, the title that I settled on was Batteries Included, and you'll understand why. Because usually it's batteries not included, but in this particular case,
we're talking about dildos this week.
On this particular topic, batteries are included. And no, it's not dildos. For those of you that all of a sudden ears perked up and went, what?
That's next week. What's this episode about?
Well, let me segue into that in the clever way that I had sort of planned on doing it. So, Adam.
Yeah.
What do you think about the price of gas these days?
Ooh, boy. Howdy.
Right?
Even a what in tarnation. Yeah, gas prices are fucked.
They are, and they're not going down anytime soon.
No.
So what if I told you that you could own a car and you never have to buy gas ever again?
I call you a liar.
No, you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
So in case you hadn't guessed, we're going to be talking about electric cars in this episode. This is a topic that I have wanted to spill my guts about for many, many years. I will talk to people on this topic almost randomly on the street. Hey man, do you know about electric? And just totally have them running away. But now I get to actually talk about it with somebody who may or may not give a shit.
No, I give a shit. I give shits. The shits that I give are there. But the part that,
we'll be talking about the butts, that's for sure.
Yeah, the fandangled electric car, automobile, is something that is very cool. And I always thought it was really neat. And I want to say it's a natural progression, but the first electric car was in fucking 1840 or some shit.
Exactly.
Right.
It's something new.
Shit's been around. But in the order of operations in my head about harnessing electricity, it starts with my house.
Right.
And eventually it gets to the point where I can power my own vehicle.
Yes.
So I am off the grid.
Yeah.
So electric cars are always cool, but my interest was earlier in that order of operations. So, but absolutely.
Have you ever been in an electric car?
So we talked about it briefly last week and sort of blew our wad a little bit on the conversation, and you asked me that question. Yeah. I have not actually been inside of one.
Okay.
I have seen inside of one.
Right.
But he wouldn't let us sit in it.
Wow.
He was a bit of a D-bag for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Like, I mean, if I owned an electric car and people wanted to sit in it, I'd be like, you want to go for a drive?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, right.
and that's kind of what happened to me, if you don't mind me repeating the story, but
No,
in
please.
a slightly shorter. I have a neighbor that lives a few blocks up the road, and when I found out that she owned a Tesla Model 3, I asked her if she'd be willing to talk about her experiences with the car and what made her choose buying one in the first place. And she said, yeah. And then she offered to come and pick me up one work weeknight or whatever and take me for a drive.
Carl, was your intrigue, when you asked her about why she picked it, was your question more directed about the Tesla or an electric car period?
An electric car period,
Okay.
but also the Tesla.
Certainly.
Specifically because not everyone can afford to buy a Tesla.
Right.
I mean, if I could afford to buy a Tesla, there'd be one in the driveway right now.
Right.
But, yeah, so never mind that part.
Yeah.
That's what I was interested in. I wanted to be able to steer the conversation with someone I knew. Why did you pick this car? Why did you pick an electric car, period? And why specifically did you pick the Tesla?
Right.
And it was interesting, the answers that I got. What she was basically looking to do, she wanted to buy her forever car. She figured, if I'm going to sink a lot of money into a brand new car, I want it to be around for a long time, and I want it to be kind of future-proof. And I said, well, you definitely picked the right kind of car for that, because Teslas are renowned for getting like major feature updates through software updates, just like a computer or an operating system would. And because they put enough hardware in their cars to make them future-proof. Yeah, so it was pretty thrilling to go for a drive in it. And then she surprised me after she had driven me out to Cochrane, which is about a 25-minute drive from here. She let me get in the driver's seat and drive it all the way back, which was phenomenal. Absolutely freaking phenomenal. So that's my only real world experience with electric cars. But I'm an electric car fanboy in the sense that I will spend hours on YouTube watching owners of electric cars talk about what it's like to own their electric car. Because they will, I found, be supremely forthcoming on the good and the bad. They'll focus mostly on the good, of course, because, most people aren't going to diss something they've shelled out a lot of money for and harp on those things. Mm-hmm. But they're mostly honest, at least, about the things that they don't like about their cars. And I am now a believer that they are not only the future, but they are probably going to become ubiquitous sooner than a lot of people realize. Because all the reasons anyone I've spoken to have come up with why they don't think they're practical or a good idea right now are so off the mark, it's not even funny.
Right.
Yeah, because they just don't know.
Right.
They just don't know. Like, the last person I spoke to said, yeah, I like them and everything, but I just can't be bothered to spend an hour waiting for it to recharge. And I'm like, okay, so you just proved to me you know nothing about the latest crop of electric cars. Because the latest crop of electric cars parked at a high capacity supercharger can go from 20 to 60% in like 15 minutes.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
In fact, someone did a cannonball run in a Porsche Taycan, all-electric car from New York to LA. And that's basically what they did. As soon as they figured out what the charge curve of the car was, they leveraged it to the max. They drove that thing until it had like 5% left in it because they knew it would ramp right up to full charge at that point.
Right.
And they just let it go until it hit 50, 55, 60%. And then only then did it start to ramp down from the 200 kilowatt hour charge rate that they were getting. And then they would just go, well, that's enough of that. Unplug. Do we have enough to get to the next one? Yep. Off we go. None of this charging to 80% nonsense. They just, they tried to stay as short a duration as possible at the charge station so that they would not kill unnecessary amounts of time. It was exciting to watch.
Yeah, that's interesting. That mentality is very different than petroleum-based vehicles, where it's just in our language. We got to go fill it up. We got to go fill it up. We got to go fill it up. So it's always about making sure the car's topped up every week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. But with an electric car,
there's a bit of planning involved.
Yeah, well, that is absolutely true. But it seems that it's less about just filling it up, and it's just about getting to where you need to go.
Right.
Regardless if it's a high capacity charging station or
you're charging
the tier 1 charging station you have at your house at 110.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just a matter of getting to where you need to go, and the planning obviously comes in, like making sure that you've got enough juice to get to where you need to charge.
And when I say planning, there's really no planning required for normal commutes. Because most of the time, if you even doubt for a second that you have enough charge left in your battery when you get home for the night, that you've got enough to last the next day, you're going to plug in your goddamn car.
Yeah.
The only difference is, depending on where you live, if you live in a place where electricity rates vary depending on the demand on the grid, then you're going to use your little phone app to tell your car, hey, car, don't start charging till midnight or whatever.
Yeah.
And, keep charging until I come out and unplug you. Oh, and while you're at it, since it's so freaking cold outside, how about you preheat the cabin in the last 20 minutes of the charge while we're still plugged in to the wall, so that it's toasty warm inside when I get in.
Yeah.
Which means then I'm not emptying, a tenth of the battery or whatever just to get the cab warm.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, there's a certain amount of planning that we're not used to because we have the convenience of just driving down to the corner gas station and filling up within, 3 or 4 minutes or whatever. But it's definitely not so inconvenient that it's got anyone that owns one of these things going, oh man, what a mistake I made. They're just going, okay, you guys.
Yeah, but okay, to be fair, just devil's advocacy.
Yeah.
Everybody likes the smell of their own farts, right? So, they're not going to complain.
There's a bit of what do you call it? Confirmation bias.
Absolutely, absolutely, and of course there would be.
Yeah.
There's confirmation bias in the vehicle that I own. It's like the vehicle that I drive is the best one,
right?
Just because that's what you do. But outside looking in, having to go to a charging station and wait 15 minutes, sucks.
It would.
Yeah,
till you got used to it.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. Unless you found a way to build it into the stop. Like,
sure.
If I had to go to Cross Iron Mills, and even then, I don't know, like, the only time that I would actually need to stop at a charging station, as opposed to just waiting till I got home, is if I'm on a road trip.
Yeah, because it's like between 200 and 400 kilometers, depending on time of year, for sure.
Yeah.
That's another variability.
And of course, the issue that we have to deal with in Canada specifically, that doesn't seem to be a problem in other jurisdictions, I've noticed, like California and Washington State and other parts of the states, and Norway, where they now sell more electric cars every month than any other kind of car.
Sure.
Period.
Yeah.
But, we'll talk about that later, why that's even possible. The infrastructure has to get 100 times better than it is now.
Yeah.
For people to go, oh shit, everywhere I look, there's chargers. So I guess there isn't going to be a problem if I want to drive to Vancouver. And in fact, if you own a Tesla, there is no problem driving to Vancouver. But if you own a Volkswagen electric car, you might have a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, or a Leaf or
Or a
something.
Leaf or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, those brands of chargers, the non-Tesla chargers, are not as numerous or as fast as the latest generation of Tesla superchargers.
Right.
So when people say, why do I need to pay 70 grand for the latest Tesla when I could just get the latest Leaf for 42, pretty much fully loaded? The answer is, well, you're getting 42 grand worth of convenience and technology. You're not getting as big of a battery as you would in the Tesla, and you're not getting the infrastructure that comes with owning a Tesla either.
Yeah.
And if that's all you're doing with that Leaf is driving to work and back and doing groceries.
Yeah, don't buy a Tesla.
Right.
Absolutely.
You don't need it.
Yeah.
Unless what you are looking forward to someday is being able not to hold the steering wheel and let the thing drive you everywhere that you need to go without even thinking about it.
Right.
Because that's coming sooner than a lot of people realize too. I don't know, have you seen any of the YouTube videos of the beta test of their latest self-driving
No, but I read
software?
about it. I read about
It's
the guys that are
insane.
on the beta right now.
It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting.
The software is learning how to deal with situations in a manner that are making these drivers just go gaga.
Mm-hmm.
They're just thinking, wow, if the beta can do this, imagine what it's going to be like when it's all ironed out and done.
Right.
Having said that, it's going to be a completely different set of experiences in the middle of winter in Canada or a northern state, where the camera, if it can't see what the hell is going on, is not going to be able to drive that car.
Which is incredibly frequent.
Yes.
Right. Everybody's got a backup camera that they got to go
Go
spit
in-
on their thumb and rub it off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. The people that are working on these cars are primarily focused on the perfect driving conditions.
Wow.
California's got phenomenal roads with constantly freshly painted markings and fucking glow in the dark goddamn things sticking out in the lane dividers, and no snow blizzards, no snowstorms, no black ice
Just
to deal
fire.
with, just
Big fire.
yeah, just smoke. Oh my god. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm hoping that my next car will be an electric car. I'm looking forward to all the fun and all of the new paradigm that would be the electric car owner's experience, which is no more oil changes, no more tune-ups, no more coolant flushes, no more spark plug changes, no more filter, nothing, no more transmission headaches, none of it. The only thing I got to worry about is the health of my battery, my brakes from time to time, and probably more tire changes than I'm used to because of the sheer weight of the car and the torquiness of
Right.
the electric motors.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to stop going, hey, watch this. Woo! Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Look how fast I can get to 100 kilometers an hour or
Yeah.
200. But yeah, I'm so looking forward to giving the finger as I drive by every gas station I have ever stopped at, and laughing at the cost of the electricity that goes into a full charge versus the cost of filling up a tank of gas, even in a small car, is
Right.
insane.
Yeah,
There's just no comparison.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's no comparison at all. Maybe it's my naivety, and you can, and will proudly correct me if I'm wrong, about, like, the difficulty, especially in this province, where all of our electricity is just getting pumped into the sky anyway.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, yes, it's better on my wallet, which
Yes.
is nice.
Right.
But
Are you producing the same pollutants?
yeah, and I'm not,
No, you're not. Not even close.
But
They've studied this.
fair enough, but it's still not right. We're still like it's still not the right answer.
No.
So
in a perfect world,
yeah,
we wouldn't be charging electric cars from or with electricity produced by fossil fuel.
right.
Which, unfortunately, Alberta is doing that in spades. There are still coal-fired plants that were promised to be turned off and are on the verge, but they're not yet. And all the rest of our electricity, for the most part, is being produced by natural gas.
Mm-hmm.
With a couple of pockets, enough to be laughable, of hydroelectricity, and the rest is, and it's such a minute amount, of wind and solar.
Right.
Which is unfortunate, because if there's two things that Alberta has almost more of than any other province in the country, it's wind and sunny days. And we're only beginning to think about leveraging that free resource. And the excuse the utility companies have always, until very, very recently, been using as an excuse why they can't build more wind and more solar is because they don't have any ability to store the electricity,
right.
Which is now total nonsense. Because as it's been proven in other parts of the world, you don't need batteries to store energy.
No potential energy.
You can store energy by pumping water up to the top of a mountain and then letting it fall when the wind stops.
Yeah, I watched a video in Germany. They just did a series of trains pushing giant concrete blocks up.
Right.
Yeah, for potential energy.
Yeah.
And as it comes back down, it creates the electricity.
Another thing they started doing in Germany, which I thought was ingenious, like the people who come up with these ideas need to be congratulated.
The Germans,
I know, right?
They get it.
They get it.
Always have, always will.
One of the things the Germans did to store energy, they found a way to store energy as cold. And you'd think, how the hell do you do that?
This is a cool story. I like this one.
What they did was they said, okay, all of the giant warehouses that we have that have to keep things frozen before they get shipped out, we're just, while the wind is blowing all night long and driving these turbines, and this electricity has to go somewhere because otherwise it gets shunted to ground and wasted, we're just going to crank our freezers down to like minus 25 instead of minus 10. And we'll let them take all of that stuff that's being frozen down to the coldest temperature we can get it to.
Right.
And then at 8 o'clock in the morning, when everybody gets up and turns their shit on and the factories start firing up, we'll just shut the freezers off and not burn any electricity.
Yeah.
Which actually ends up putting the grid out of the hands of all the people with those freezer warehouses.
Right. They're not using
and back
any
on the grid.
Yeah, they're not using. Well, it's not back on the grid. It's just they're no longer
using it.
They're
Right.
no longer
Yeah,
drawing
they're not
from the
consuming
grid
from it during the day, which is
it's really
ingenious.
neat. Yeah, it's really neat.
It's ingenious.
It's a really cool idea.
And then another thing that they have just started figuring out how to do, they always knew that they could store heat for a long time underground in the right materials. In fact, there's actually a development in Okotoks where they built a whole bunch of houses in a row on a street. And then they built the garages for those houses down this laneway. And I'm sure it's on more than one street that they did this. But what they did was they put solar panels on the roofs of the garage, the row of garages. But they're not the kind of power panels that generate electricity. They're the kind of power panels that heat the liquid that's circulating through them. And then what they do is they capture that heat and pump it underground into these giant vats that are insulated and contain a special type of coolant or something that is capable of holding on to that heat for months once it's down there. And they just keep topping it up and warming it up and warming it up all summer long. And then as soon as it starts getting like what it is now, they turn it back in reverse and they start sucking all that heat out of the big giant vats underground and heating the houses with it.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I'm thinking, like, why is there only like one neighborhood of a city in a, in a province like ours that is doing that? They've proven that it works. It works, and yet no one else is doing it.
It's because it's a province like ours.
I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess.
We've hardly picked up stones and sticks to figure shit out yet.
Well, I know.
Right?
We've somehow been hypnotized as a culture in this province that oil and gas is the only thing that's going to keep us going until it just isn't around anymore. That it's not really fair or Alberta-like to just think about transitioning away from that even before we run out of it. Especially, and money's got a lot to do with it too. Let's face it.
Or all of it.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the companies that produce the stuff are raking in the kind of dough they're raking in now, the last thing on their mind is going, maybe we should stop pumping this stuff out of the ground.
Yeah. There's lots more than the oil and gas companies with the money. It's the money that the province generates. It's the fact that we don't pay PST. It's right. We don't pay for Alberta healthcare. Other provinces do.
Right.
We have to. Right. So
because of those royalties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a and then how we assist other provinces. Like it's such an astronomical amount of money that I'm a huge advocate for moving in the direction of greener technologies, but it's not a light switch. Like you can't turn it off.
No.
Like I don't know how, and I'm not smart enough to know how does this province generate enough money to sustain.
Yeah.
Like, what else do we have?
No, I don't know. And unfortunately, it's too late for us to try to become like Norway has been for the last couple of decades, because they got it right. Their oil and gas industry was essentially crown owned. And so they got to decide how much royalty they were actually going to extract from the selling of their oil and gas. And they took a lot. Their fund is worth more than $1.5 trillion, I think. And what they decided to do with that money as a country was they said, okay, now that the writing is on the wall, that this is a finite resource that will stop being the thing that everybody wants sooner than we probably realize, let's get the country on a footing to not even need it anymore.
Right.
We'll keep selling it to whoever wants it. But in the meantime, they took their fund and basically said to all Norwegians, hey, you want to buy an electric car? We'll pay half.
Crazy.
And that's why they're the biggest selling vehicle in the country, because who wouldn't buy an electric car at half the price?
Right.
It's almost a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And so, of course, they put in the infrastructure because they knew they needed it, because they knew people were going to be buying it in droves, and they got ready quick. Unlike here, where, no one's, it's like a vicious circle. It's instead of the Norwegian build it and they will come type of philosophy, in Alberta and other places like Alberta, it's kind of like, well, we don't need to invest in the infrastructure because not enough people are buying the cars. But not enough people are buying the cars because there's no infrastructure.
Yeah.
So
I can't get a job because I have no experience.
That's right.
Can't get a
That's
job.
right.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, it's an odd situation we find ourselves in, and that's why you end up with a premier of Ontario saying things like, "I'm not going to subsidize a car that only millionaires can afford," which just goes to show you how uneducated he is about electric cars. I know a lot of non-millionaires who own electric cars. In fact, I'm willing to bet that if you were to statistically see how rich the people who own electric cars are, you'll find that they're well off, but they're not rich.
Right.
The girl up the street who decided to sink all of her life savings into that Tesla was not a rich person.
Right.
She just said, okay, now is the time. I'm making the jump.
Just rich in personality, really.
I guess so. I'll buy that. What else are we going to talk about today? Have we exhausted the electric car topic?
No,
Are there
we
any
haven't.
things you're
Yes.
curious about electric cars?
There's things that freak me out,
Yeah,
like the batteries.
Yeah.
It's all butterflies and rainbows until you start talking about fucking batteries.
Yes.
Right? And that shit is gnarly.
Well, and here's the thing. I can speak from experience on this because at one time I owned a hybrid car.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the worst experience I've ever had in my life. And the reason it was a bad experience is not because it was a shitty car. It was a Civic hybrid, incidentally. It wasn't a crappy car. The problem was the car sat on the lot for a year and the battery was essentially destroyed from non-use. So it worked, but it didn't work for long before it started seeing serious degradation. Now, had I managed to scoop that car right off the factory floor, or it had only been sitting in the lot for a couple of months, I would have probably had a much better experience.
Sure.
But bear in mind, too, this was 12 years ago that I bought this. 12? 10 years ago that I bought the car. So battery technology has not only come a long ways in 10 years.
Yep.
The battery management circuitry that manages the battery's state of charge in all electric cars does a much better job than that piece of garbage circuitry in the Civic Hybrid that I owned, because they know much more about what batteries can take and what will shorten their life.
Right.
And the thing that will shorten the life of a lithium-ion battery pack is letting it go down to 0 and charging it up to 100. You don't want to do that. And if you have to, you don't want to do it often. So by default, electric cars will insist that you only let it go down to 20 on a normal day and never let it go above 80 on a normal day. The only time you would bypass that rule is if you were doing a long drive, a long road trip. So as long as you don't defy what the battery management circuitry wants to do to keep your battery healthy, I think you got a pretty good chance of getting a solid 10 years out of your battery. But then you're going to have to eventually replace it if you don't mind, unless you don't mind, 15, 20, possibly even 25% degradation in capacity. So, but you can take all the money that you saved on $120 gas fill-ups.
Yep. Yeah, that's
and
true.
And start saving for your next battery.
So, my contention is the issue with I gotta buy a new battery. But it's not the fact that it's inconvenient for me or that I have to buy one even every 10 years, which, admittedly is
it's
really
the fact
good
that
for
you
a
have to
battery.
get one, period.
Yeah, and half of Norway has these huge batteries, and we're needing more and more batteries. It takes a lot of crazy shit to make a battery, and none of it is good for us.
No.
Right? So when these batteries do go bad, there's the recycling of batteries, but there's always terrible shit that's left over.
Correct.
Right? And the argument with, fossil fuels will eventually be gone, which is absolutely true. There's some rare earth materials that we're tearing out of the crust to make these batteries.
Yes.
That are also finite.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I honestly have no idea how finite they are, what's the expectancy, how long it's going to take for us to go through, cobalt. It might be a real long time, or it might not be.
And having said that, there are battery companies that are saying, hey, including Tesla, that are saying, hey, don't worry, we're now almost perfecting battery technology that doesn't require any cobalt. We're going to be using some other stuff instead. But, even if the batteries only end up having to have aluminum and manganese in them in order to operate, you still have to get aluminum and manganese to make these batteries. And if you need enough to build 1 billion electric cars, that's a lot of manganese you got to get your hands on, and you got to keep doing it every time like you said, those batteries need replacing. I'm very curious to see how this is all going to play out in the future, because there is a very dedicated group of electric car enthusiasts, engineer enthusiasts, who are saying, I know you all have given up on fuel cells, hydrogen fuel cells. And Musk isn't helping matters on that front, because he basically wrote them off, saying, forget about hydrogen fuel cells. They're nothing. They're not gonna solve the problem.
Weird. I wonder why you'd do that.
I don't, I think it was really, I think the problem with Elon is that once he makes up his mind about something, that's it. He's gonna, he's like he's laser focused on whatever he decides is gonna be the next thing.
Right.
And you can't talk him, and he'll deny everything else is viable just as a protection mechanism to stop himself from wandering and not focusing on that laser focus on the idea that he's pursuing. And the idea he's pursuing is that, don't worry, the battery technology will eventually catch up to where we need it to be. But I'm not so sure. I think that the only thing that is really holding hydrogen fuel cell technology back is the production of hydrogen.
Right.
Because right now it's expensive to do, and we've got people in this country, again, Alberta, saying, oh yeah, sure, if you want us to produce a shit crap load of hydrogen, we can do it using fossil fuels.
Yeah, use natural gas. Yeah.
Which again is like, yeah, but okay, that's fine for now, but shouldn't we be building more wind farms and solar farms so that we can crack water into hydrogen and oxygen for free?
Yeah.
That would be the thing that makes hydrogen sustainable, and that would possibly turn the tide and make hydrogen fuel cells better than battery-powered electric cars, because
Absolutely.
then you could just go to the neighborhood goddamn gas station and fill up with hydrogen in exactly the same amount of time, plus or minus a minute, that it takes you to fill up with gas now. End of story. Problems solved. So I'm not completely convinced that hydrogen fuel cells are dead and are not going to be the answer going forward. I think the jury is still out, because as soon as we let another 5 years go by, and where were all these cheap, non-polluting, sustainable battery technologies that you guys all promised us, I think that's when people are going to start going, okay, maybe they were full of shit, and now we got to look at the other thing.
But check out this new $40,000 Tesla.
Right.
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 It's the same problem. It's corruption and.
But if Elon
cynicism,
starts to see 4 or 5 other brand names producing hydrogen fuel cell full electric cars affordably, and the infrastructure actually starts ramping up for it, there's nothing stopping him from going, oh, do you want a fuel cell powered Tesla? Yeah, sure. I'm sure we could do that, which would theoretically drive the cost down even more. I personally believe that if he had chosen fuel cell as the power pack of choice, we'd be looking at $30,000 Teslas right now.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of strip mines for making hydrogen.
And a hydrogen tank doesn't cost a lot of money either.
No.
Not as much as a bloody 90 kilowatt hour battery does.
Absolutely not. And the weight?
No kidding.
So different.
I know.
Yeah.
Totally. So
it's so funny, us two sitting here going, shit, we figured it out.
Right.
I wonder what the problems really are. Like, I have no idea what the real challenges of hydrogen cells, beyond the manufacturing of hydrogen. But the problems, the manufacturing of batteries is no small feat.
No.
Right? It's not easy.
No.
Right? It's crazy expensive
It's crazy
and dangerous.
Expensive. It's bad for the environment.
Yeah, it's all sorts of shit. So, but why are still hydrogen cells not the thing to go after? There's something that we're obviously missing, surprisingly. that
Yeah.
you and I haven't figured it out.
Right.
But, yeah, because the idea is super romantic. We're just going, well, yeah, there you go. We could just do it. If everybody got solar panels or, little wind farm trees in their backyards and make their own hydrogen.
And the reason there's something very strange going on in the car industry right now that has a couple of people scratching their heads. And I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about people who actually watch the auto industry with interest and have a lot of experience. You ever heard of this guy, Sandy Munro?
No, I don't think so.
Sandy Munro is an ex-GM engineer.
Okay.
And he kind of went off and formed his own consulting company where he offered to go and say, hey, anyone who makes cars, give me one of your cars off the assembly line and I'm going to completely tear it down to its parts and tell you everything you did wrong and everything you did right. Musk jumped on that bandwagon and said, here you go, and gave them one of the first run Model 3 cars. And Munro tore that thing apart and said, what a pile of poo this is. They did this wrong, they did that wrong. The way it was put together is really crappy. It's got all kinds of quality control issues, yada, yada, yada. This looks like it's going to break any minute if you just look at it the wrong way, this, that, and the other thing. And then when they fine-tuned their manufacturing process a little bit, he said, here, how about this one? And gave them another. And Munro said, this is great. You guys are doing a really good job of fixing all the problems that you had with your first and second generation of your cars. And then when they were talking to, like, some journalists sat down and after they rediscovered who this guy was and said, so Sandy, what do you think about the future of cars, period? Like, are electric cars the way to go? La, 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 la. And he's like, yeah. He goes, if you are not investing all of your R&D dollars in full-on electric cars right now, you are going to be left behind in the dust. But right after he said that, everybody was kind of going, so what's up with Toyota and Honda? Where are all the electric cars coming out of these two companies? There's practically nothing there. In the case of Honda, there is nothing.
At all?
Huh?
They gotta have some token vehicle.
They've got a hydrogen vehicle.
Oh, interesting.
Huh? But they do not have a full electric battery only vehicle.
Interesting.
In the market.
Oh wow.
Okay. They may be working on it, but they sure as hell aren't telling anybody that they're working on it. And Toyota, I think Toyota has an all electric RAV4. That's it. But where's the rest of the fleet? And I think I'm ready to go out on a limb here on the interwebs and predict that the reason those two car companies are holding back is because they're convinced that hydrogen fuel cell is not dead and that it's going to make a comeback as an option once everybody realizes that batteries are not all they were cracked up to be and that the price drop that everybody was promising is just not coming true. And it's not going to produce the affordable all-electric alternative that everybody's waiting for. Because it's not going to be a ubiquitous thing until they're worth 30 grand.
Right.
Until you can buy an all-electric car that can actually go places for 30 grand, they're not going anywhere.
No.
Period. All stop. I say that a lot, don't I?
I don't know. You said
period.
You said
period.
Ubiquitous a lot today.
Yeah, I know, eh?
That's something that's been driving me crazy when I listen back to these podcasts, is a word that I say over and over and over.
Oh, yeah.
And over. Last one was fuck. I said it a lot. Like a lot. It really bothered me. And the one before that was absolutely.
Yeah.
I say it a lot.
That word tends to drive a lot of people crazy.
Which one?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are people who hate that word with
Really?
every fiber of their being. So whenever they hear it, they notice
This has to be cut out, by the way. Simply because people are going to listen to it and they're going to go back.
But
Yeah,
it's
you
me.
fucking do say it a lot. I've never heard anybody not like it besides me because I say it all the time. Because my mom says
Absolutely.
it all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fucking, you'll go crazy now when you listen to it. You'll be
Oh,
like,
I'm definitely leaving this in, by the way.
you fucking asshole says it all the time.
Yeah, I'm definitely leaving it in. No, you're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
See what I mean? It's a natural. It's a natural filler word.
Yeah. Like
Adam
I
and
said.
Carl, grammar police.
No, not me at all.
Definitely not.
No, I can't spell. I put commas in sentences hoping that they're in the right spot.
Yeah.
Hi, comma.
Next topic. Oh, now I know the answer to this next question is going to be no, because you don't subscribe to Disney anymore. So obviously you have not watched the new Beatles documentary that got thrown together. Probably not even interested, right?
Nah.
Next topic.
Nah. We can talk about it. The Beatles I respect the Beatles for what they did.
Yep.
I just don't care. Like,
Right.
I can... a song will come on, or any number of songs will, to be fair, any number of songs will come on. I'll tap my foot and probably sing every goddamn word. But it's not a moving experience.
Right.
Right? Like, I don't really care.
Well, I guess admittedly I belong to a generation that was more influenced by the Beatles, but even then the Beatles were even before my time, because they broke up when I was like 9, which is weird that to even say those words out loud. They broke up when I was 9. But their music continued to influence the scene for many, many years after that, before it finally petered out.
Yeah.
Because especially the albums that they produced just before they broke up, were groundbreaking. They were
Right.
nothing like the stuff they started out with, which was
Right.
bubblegum girl pop.
Which is, certainly the latter part of their catalog was far more interesting.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And so the thing that I think I was really interested in watching this new documentary for is, as the guy who produced it,
Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson, yeah, from New Zealand. He managed to get his hands on all of the raw footage that was produced by the production company that were going to make a TV special out of the making of that album.
Okay.
And of the hundreds, if not thousands of hours of raw footage that they captured of them rehearsing and talking and goofing around and making music on the fly, the TV special ended up being focused on how they didn't get along that great.
Oh, okay.
Because that's all anybody was talking about at the time.
Right.
There was rumors that the Beatles weren't getting along anymore. They were on the verge of breaking up. How much longer would they stay together? And oh, look, they're making an album. Well, this ought to be a gong show, right? If we get to watch it.
Do you know what record that was? I don't know what it is.
It was
People are
Let It Be.
Oh, okay.
It was the album Let It Be.
Okay.
So yeah, unfortunately, the producers decided to focus mostly on the shitty part, the
drama.
The drama, the bickering and stuff like that.
The
They
money making.
captured a little bit of the creative process, but they left a lot of the more interesting parts on the floor, on the cutting room floor. And Peter Jackson said, no, there's a lot of gold in here, and we need to pick out the shiniest bits and really show what was really going on behind the scenes, which was, yeah, they would bicker about little things here and there, but they were also like inventing songs out of thin air. They were literally scrambling to come up with enough songs and finish them there in that little fake studio that they had built for the TV show, to put it together. And I haven't watched the whole thing yet. I've only watched the first of the 3-hour episodes, or roughly 3 hours. And it's been... I had no idea just how much fun these guys had together when they worked together. I had no idea how, unlike music artists of today, who are typically given a year or more to come up with their next album, these motherfuckers did it in a month. A month! And most of that month was spent going, how about this? Yeah, okay, we might have something there. Hey, let's play a Chuck Berry song that we know.
Right.
They just wanted to jam and have fun with the music that influenced them,
Right.
that they knew how to play, and, lifted up their spirits while they were trying to think of how they were going to finish that song they were just working on. And it was just like, holy crap, man. I had no idea how influential Paul McCartney was on these songs that they were putting together.
Yeah.
He was like the
He's like the music man.
he was
isn't
like the music man. He was
Yeah.
like the music director of that band.
Yeah.
John came up with content and
Yeah.
ideas, but Paul was the guy who kept massaging it and tweaking it. And well, what if we did this? And yeah, it was just nuts.
Like I say, I absolutely have an appreciation for their contribution to music, and I probably would watch it, though I'm a little turned off by the length that you've described. That's really long.
Yeah.
But it still would be very interesting because, they're a big deal. They're still a big deal.
Yeah.
They're almost all gone, but they're still a big deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Another band we're going to talk about one of these days is Floyd.
Oh, man. I won't even show up to that podcast. I'll just let you go. Jesus.
So what's on your mind, Adam?
I had the most... It was a really interesting experience. Yesterday? I think it was... it was yesterday. And it's a funny feeling of privilege and anger, disappointment, confusion. And I was driving, my daughter and we just went for a drive, because that's what we do. And we were driving through Chestermere. And just driving, having a good time. And then I saw the lights of a cop go off, like 3 cars behind us. So I pull over, and everybody pulls over, but the cop wiggles in and comes behind me. And my daughter's like, what's going on? Like, what did you do? I'm like, I have no idea. When you're speeding, you're speeding. You've fucked up. And I didn't know. So he shows up and he proceeds to tell me that I was on my cell phone. That he saw me looking at my phone as I was driving. And I was like, are you sure? Because I truly didn't think I had been. And he's like, no, I saw it. And I said, do you think maybe it was my insulin pump or some shit like that? Nope, it was your... Anyway, so I can't contest that much. Like, he says I did, I said I didn't. Well, he's going to write a ticket. Right? Anyway, so he asked for license and registration, whatever. It turns out my registration is out. So anyway, I get 2 tickets that amount to $634.
Aye.
So the part that's I missed an important part which bothered me because I felt embarrassed because it happened in front of my daughter and it subsequently made her cry. Is that this cop made me do a breathalyzer. And he said everybody has to do it. And again, if I didn't have my daughter, I would have been like, no. Like, absolutely not. Like, we're going to turn this into a thing.
Yeah.
If I wasn't in Chestermere and my 3-year-old wasn't in my back seat.
Right.
Because what the fuck? It's 10:30 in the morning. Like, yeah, okay, people drink at 10:30. Anyway, so that embarrassed me and upset me. And my daughter's crying, so I'm trying to console her because she's like, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. but where the privilege comes from, it's like the first experience I've had with police where I didn't do anything wrong, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you did," and there's nothing you can do about it.
No.
So here's your ticket, and it just I felt all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
I felt scared, disappointed,
Yeah.
and the privilege part is that I'm just some white guy who's had this very first bad experience with a cop, and there are people that get killed by them. So anyway, but it was infuriating experience, and I'm going to go to court, and I'm going to fight them both, because I got my registration like on the way home through, because you can do it online now.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I did it.
Right.
Please drop this.
Yeah.
And the cell phone, I'm going to try to.
Contest?
Yeah, I'm going to try to contest it.
Right.
Because
You're pretty sure you weren't on your phone, or you're absolutely sure?
Oh, I'm only pretty sure. I'm only pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And
sometimes we will use it without even thinking that we're using it.
Oh, for sure. I
Yeah.
almost said absolutely, but I won't fucking do it again. For sure. Now it's going to be for sure, and that's going to be way worse.
For
It'll be
sure.
like fucking Keanu
For
Reeves.
sure.
I'm going to be surfing with Patrick Swayze in Point Break. For sure.
For sure, eh? But yeah, no.
Yeah, no, I have
what you
suspicions of. I thought. So yesterday I was sure that I had a plan figured out so I could contest it, which was on your phone when you get a notification. I used it Apple Pay, like an hour and a half before I got pulled over. And when you use Apple Pay, it'll send you a notification on your notification screen saying it was this much.
Right.
So I had thought, and I'm not sure anymore, I had thought that even if you pick up your phone and look at your notification screen, not unlocking your phone, just looking at the notification screen would clear it. So I was sure that that was the case yesterday. So I was, because when he said you looked at your phone and I said no, I picked up my phone and looked, and my Apple Pay thing was still there. So had I picked up my phone and looked at it, it would have cleared. Right? I can't prove it, but like that's my story.
Right.
But now I don't actually know if the notification's clear unless you unlock it. But so I don't know.
I don't either.
I'll probably have to pay a $300 ticket.
And I know this is kind of like treading on snowflake, but having to deal with that kind of power shift, power dynamic, really does a number on your psyche. Especially when you're, going into it thinking, I'm cool, nothing's wrong here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything should be fine.
Yeah.
I'm just, maybe my tail light is out and I don't realize it, or
I was speeding.
Or maybe I was speeding and I didn't realize it, or whatever. And instead of being a shithead about it, the officer's going to look me up and go, oh, this person's been clean for years. So let's, see if they act like an asshole. And if they do, okay, then I'm going to shift the power dynamic, back in my favor. But if they're really nice about everything, then we're just going to have a little talk, and I'm going to say, hey,
fucking slow
be
down.
careful, man.
Yeah.
You got a 3-year-old in the back seat.
Right. Yeah.
Settle down.
Sure.
Show some respect to everybody around you.
Right.
Have a great day, and then back to the car. But no, there's not. And there are some reports of that kind of interaction, but it's in the minority.
Yeah.
It's in the minority.
The audacity of this guy at the end, it was just like, it was the icing on the shittiest cake ever, was he came back with the tickets and he's like, I got good news and I got bad news. And I was like, you prick. Okay. He's like, the bad news is you're getting 2 tickets. I'm like, okay. The good news is I'm not going to tow you today. Fuck you. That's not good news. Like,
yeah,
like I suppose it's good news, but it wasn't good news until your ass face decided to say it.
right.
Like, fuck you. Don't do me that favor. Just don't tow my car.
Yeah, yeah.
And the part that bugs me is, with that is like, if my daughter wouldn't have been in the back seat of my car, would have he towed my car because my registration was out? And it sure the fuck feels like he would have.
Right.
Who knows? Who knows? I'm mad. I'm pissed off. Like, whatever.
But again, it's that power dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Because they've got you coming and going now. Here's 2 tickets you probably can't afford. Oh, and by the way, just to rub some salt in the wound, it could have been worse if I really wanted to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Well, no, we've already crossed that line. So yeah, don't act like you're doing me any kind of favors, because you just basically ruined my day just with the 2 tickets. You could have done what a lot of other officers did and said, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you didn't realize your registration had expired, and I'm going to give you 24 hours to fix the situation. Or if you can't show up, if you can show up in the station with your renewed registration by tomorrow 3:00,
Right.
they will be ready to rip this ticket in half.
Right.
Otherwise, it stays in your possession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If he wanted to be fair about it, that's what he could have done. Not just,
No, just...
you think you're having a bad day now? Wait till I make you take a breathalyzer.
Yeah. And so I blow... Holy fuck. So I blow
You're
into
lucky
this
I'm
thing.
not strip searching you out there outside the side of the vehicle.
Well, that's all right. He was kind of handsome. He takes this thing apart. Like, I've never done a breathalyzer before.
Me neither.
So he's like, okay, you got to put your mouth on it and blow a steady stream of air until I tell you to stop. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I don't know how long this steady stream is going to be, right? So I plan an appropriate level of pressure of blowing out. So I don't know if I'm going to be going for fucking 15 minutes here or 10 seconds. So I blow. And it gets to the end. He's like, you have to blow harder than that, sir. I'm like, okay, well, okay.
I was saving myself.
Yeah, and don't be such a cunt about it. Thank you. Anyway, so then I blow into it, and he looks at me, and he points it to me, and he's like, it's 0. And I said, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, of course it's 0. Like, it wasn't a surprise. I'm not like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I fooled you.
What do I win?
Yeah. What a dink. Anyway, this doesn't make for real great content. It's not really funny but man.
Annoying as hell.
Annoying, yeah. But like I say, the part that really bugs me is that I do feel privileged, and it does give me perspective, is like, there's some gnarly shit that's going on in the world with cops.
Well, and how about if you'd have been a black guy?
That's what I'm saying. That's my problem. That's where the privilege comes in, is I'm upset because a cop gave me a ticket and let me leave.
Right.
If I was a black guy in another situation, I could have been shot.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so, yeah. So there's silver lining to it, because it gives you perspective on how good things are for us white fellas, right? But...
Well, I think that's pretty much it for episode 3. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye. Was that long enough, do you think?
Oh, God, yeah.
No, well, not counting that bit.
Yeah, considering all the heavy editing.